and thank you for joining us on Future TV. I'm Linda Tamim, and these are today's top stories. The families of the 9 Lebanese pilgrims held hostage in Syria plan to file a lawsuit against the Turkish government and join thousands of Armenians rallying to mark the Armenian genocide. Speaker Nabih Berri rejects appeals for a parliamentary session prior to May 15. And popular Lebanese caricaturist Pierre Sadeh, whose drawings had become a staple in newspapers and TV, dies at the age of 75 after a battle with illness. President Michel Sleiman has called on the Lebanese to abide by the dissociation policy and not to spend arms, shipments, or fighters to the neighboring country, Syria. The president also called on different parties not to establish any trading bases in Lebanon. He pointed out that the Lebanese should not meddle in the Syrian affairs to safeguard the national unity and prevent any tension locally. For his part, Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat said Hezbollah should reconsider its decision to take part in the fighting presently taking place in Syria. He also warned that Hezbollah's military support for the Syrian regime will squander the popular and political support it has garnered over the past few years. Speaker Nabih Berri has rejected appeals made by rival lawmakers for a parliamentary session before May 15th over the absence of a consensual electoral draft law. This comes after a parliamentary subcommittee tasked with finding an alternative to the 1960 vote law failed yesterday to reach consensus on a hybrid proposal. The proposal made by Berri calls for 50% of MPs be elected under the proportional representation system and the other half through the winner-takes-all system. The subcommittee's chairman, MP Robert Ghanem, announced a suspension of the meetings over the huge gap between the rival MPs from the March 14th and the March 18th alliances, in addition to the centrist National Struggle Front. Berri criticized the suspension, saying the subcommittee could have reached a common ground. The families of 9 Lebanese pilgrims held hostages in Syria say they plan to file a lawsuit against the Turkish government after blaming Ankara for the abductions. At midday, the families of the hostages joined a march at Martyrs Square in downtown Beirut, marking the 98th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. Armenians marched from Burj Hamoud to downtown Beirut in remembrance of their kin killed by Ottoman Turks during World War I. Several Armenian party leaders made speeches during the event asking Turkey to recognize the fact and give compensations to the Armenian people and restore their rights. Armenians say up to 1.5 million people were killed during the genocide, a claim still denied by Turkey. Turkish minister is currently visiting Adnan Mansour. 7 people, including 4 children, were injured at a Palestinian refugee camp in North Lebanon. Reports say the incident occurred when a shell left over from battles between the army and militants exploded. The national news agency says the explosion went off near Jabal Tabur school at the Nahr al-Bared refugee camp. The source added wounded were taken to Al Khair hospital in Mina. The Military Court of Cassation has ordered the release on bail of Fadi al-Hujayri, who was accused of involvement in the deadly attack on the Lebanese army in Asil more than 2 months ago. The national news agency says court headed by Judge Alice Shabtini ruled against a decision by the examining military magistrate, Judge Fadi Zawan, not to release al-Hujayri. The source added that Shabtini set a 1 million Lebanese pound bail to set him free, but she upheld a decision by Zawan not to release 2 others involved in the case. Lebanese caricaturist Pierre Sadeh has died at the age of 75 after a battle with illness. This is according to the national news agency. Born in 1938 in Zahle, Sadeh was a political caricaturist whose drawings have been a daily staple in a Nahar newspaper and on Lebanese public television screens. He was the first caricaturist to have daily drawings on the television worldwide on LBC and Future Television. He has obtained the Poet of Said Aql's award twice. Sadeh held various exhibitions in Lebanon and abroad. Various international magazines, newspapers, and news agencies published his drawings, including the Agence Presse, UPI, Time Magazine, Le Matin, France Soir, The Washington Post, Atlas Magazine, and Jeune Afrique. The United States has designated 2 Lebanese foreign exchange firms as a significant money launderers, saying they moved money for drug traffickers and benefited Hezbollah. The U.S. Treasury named Qasim Rmeiti and Company for exchange and Halawi's exchange company for sanctions, which frees any assets they have on U.S. soil. The Treasury also banned Americans and U.S. businesses from any transactions with them. Officials say the firms pose a substantial threat to U.S. and international financial systems due to its extensive illicit financial activity on behalf of a variety of international narcotics, trafficking and money laundering networks. It said both had been used to move money by Ayman Jumha narcotics network, a primary target of U.S. law enforcement in recent years. Reports say both also wired money to Hezbollah officials. A senior civil servant at Syria's electricity ministry was killed by a magnetic bomb attached to his car in central Damascus. The state news agency Sana said the incident took place in Baramke neighborhood, adding that Hassan was pronounced dead upon arrival to hospital. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights confirmed the official's death and said 2 people in the car were injured in the attack. Aleppo's Greek Orthodox Church says it has no news on the 2 Orthodox bishops kidnapped in Syria. This comes a day after a Christian association said the 2 men had been released. Concern is mounting over the fate of 2 Syrian bishops. Speaking at St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis has appealed for 2 bishops to be freed and for the bloodshed to end. The Pope told around 100,000 people present on the square that there were contradictory reports about the fate of the 2 bishops and asked that they be returned quickly to their communities. Well, a Syrian hacking group has claimed responsibility for hacking into Associated Press, 2 main Twitter accounts. Follow the details in this report.
The Syrian Electronic Army has claimed responsibility for hacking the main Twitter account of the Associated Press and posting false news that Obama had been injured in a White House explosion. On Tuesday, the hackers tweeted a post via the AP's official Twitter account, which read, "Breaking news, 2 explosions in the White House and Barack Obama is injured. Hashtag bye bye Obama." The post instantly received more than 3,000 retweets and drew wide attention from local media and Twitter users. The tweet even caused the American stock market to suddenly plummet more than 150 points minutes after the false alert. The market, however, quickly rebounded after the AP dispelled the rumor. The Syrian Electronic Army, a pro-Assad group, claimed responsibility. They explained their actions served to resist the Western media's deceptive coverage of the Syrian civil war.
Our action was a protest against the Western media's coverage of Syria's oppositions. Their deceptive reports have hurt Syria and the Syrian people.
The Syrian Electronic Army has expressed dissatisfaction with Western media by hacking into other famous world websites. The group has previously hacked the official websites of Al Jazeera and Harvard University. Just last Sunday, it also claimed responsibility for hacking into several Twitter accounts of CBS, a top American news station. The hackers tweeted a series of things related to President Obama and the United States being in cahoots with Al-Qaeda. Ahmed Azoubi, the Syrian information minister who denied Syria's involvement in the AP incident, gave more details about the hacking group.
This is a group of young people who has made a kind of coalition agreement between themselves in the very beginning of the crisis. Their actions are voluntary and they try to oppose the information war against Syria.
Currently, Twitter's system only requires a correct username and password for anyone to enter an account. Most other big-name online services, such as Google and Facebook, however, utilize a 2-step verification system through which protection is available.
Coming up next, the World Health Organization warns of a new bird flu strain, the most lethal of its kind. Stay with us for more. Welcome back. Violence in Iraq kills 15 people, including 12 security forces personnel and gunmen, who died in attacks apparently launched in revenge for deadly clashes at a protest. Fighting earlier between security forces and protesters near the northern town of Hawija left 27 people dead and sparked a wave of revenge attacks in which a further 27 people were killed. In the deadliest fighting, officials say gunmen killed 5 soldiers and wounded 5 more in the Sulaiman Bek area north of Baghdad. Sources added gunmen also attacked Al-Sahwa anti-Qaeda militia checkpoint in Khalis, northeast of Baghdad, killing 4 of the militiamen and wounding a 5th. A 6.2 magnitude earthquake has struck Afghanistan, with strong tremors felt in the capital Kabul and Islamabad in neighboring Pakistan. The Pakistan Meteorological Office said the quake hit at 9:25 GMT and was centered in southeastern Afghanistan at a depth of 70 kilometers. And now, for a quick look at other news around the world, a protest opposing the passage of France's same-sex marriage bill have descended into violence. Hundreds of demonstrators threw bottles, stones, and pieces of street furniture at security forces who used tear gas to keep them back. This comes after the parliament approved a controversial law to legalize gay marriage. The situation prompted French President François Hollande to call for unity and a return to calm. A solar-powered plane has successfully flown for 16 hours over the San Francisco Bay Area. Lightweight plane owned by the solar Swiss firm Impulse has a wingspan of 63 meters and runs completely on power from the sun drawn from 12,000 solar cells on the craft that sent energy into batteries that power propellers running on 4 electric motors. Though it was not the first for the plane, it was the lengthiest so far. At least 76 people have been killed and hundreds more injured when an 8-story block housing factories and a shopping center collapsed on the outskirts of the Bangladeshi capital of Dhaka. Firefighters and army personnel worked to rescue people trapped inside after factory owners ignored a warning not to allow workers into the building after a crack was detected the previous day. Australian federal police have arrested the self-proclaimed leader of the international hacking group, LUSEC. Police said the 24-year-old IT worker was arrested at work and charged with hacking offenses that carry a maximum penalty of 10 years. LUSEC, an offshoot of the international hacking group Anonymous, has taken credit for hacking attacks on government and private sector websites, including the CIA, Sony Pictures, 20th Century Fox, and Nintendo. A new strain of bird flu that killed 22 people in China is one of the most lethal of its kind. Health officials in WHO say it is more easily transmissible to humans than an earlier strain, which killed hundreds around the world since 2003. The World Health Organization says H7N9 virus has infected 108 people in China since it was first detected in March. An international team of experts led by the WHO and the Chinese government conducted a 5-day investigation in China, but said they were no closer to determining whether the virus could become transmissible between people. WHO officials say it is an unusually dangerous virus for humans and added it was one of the most lethal influenza viruses ever seen. The organization stressed that its team was still at the beginning of its investigation.
When we look at influenza viruses, this is an unusually dangerous virus for humans. There are some other examples of other influenza viruses which are very dangerous for humans. I think the H5N1 bird flu virus is one of the most famous examples of how dangerous an influenza virus can be for people in terms of being lethal. But this is definitely one of the most lethal influenza viruses that we have seen so far. Right now, based on the evidence that we see, and again I want to stress that we are at the beginning of our understanding of this virus, but based on the evidence that we see, we think that this virus is more easily transmitted from poultry to humans than H5N1.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today, and now for a reminder of our headlines. The families of the 9 Lebanese pilgrims held hostage in Syria plan to file a lawsuit against the Turkish government and join thousands of Armenians rallying to mark the Armenian genocide. Speaker Nabih Berri rejects appeals for a parliamentary session prior to May 15th. And popular Lebanese caricaturist Pierre Sade, whose drawings had become a staple in newspapers and TV, dies at the age of 75 after a battle with illness. That's it from the English news team at FutureTV. I'm Nada Tamim, and I'll see you again tomorrow for more updates. Good evening.
التباعد بعده ما زال كبير جدا